Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm SkyDM, and in this video, I'll be showing you how to fully upgrade your Minotaur exocraft with the Trace of Metal quest from start to finish. Now obviously there are major spoilers ahead, consider yourself warned. Now to get this quest started, you'll need to have a settlement. Now once you have a settlement, head into space and warp to 2 different systems. Now in my 3 reloads, it wound up taking me 2 jumps each time before I was contacted by my settlement citizens. Still, your mileage may vary, and if it does, please let me know down in the comments below how many times it took you and whether or not it was systems you'd already been to or new systems. Okay, if you're taking on the Trace of Metal quest, you should be at least somewhat comfortable with combat. It seems a majority of the drone encounters are manufactured to be pretty toned down, but that does not mean that they're going to be easy. Now in this first fight, it only contains a small handful of drones, and using the tactics that I talk about in my combat video, the battle comes to a pretty quick end, and that triggers the next quest event at the Overseer Terminal. Now, this guy that you're going to meet here, he's actually just an iteration that is on the anomaly, and this kind of acts like a segue to introduce you to him, because you're going to just go straight from here and go right to the anomaly to meet him anyway. I did not load any of my old saves to figure out like what would be different if you chose one versus the other, so if you want to personalize your own quest line, you could choose different answers than the ones that I chose here. There are some in this quest that I think maybe at the end can have different lasting effects, but the outcome of the overall Trace of Metal quest doesn't matter what options you choose, it's going to end the same way. Now, realistically, there was only one decision that you could make that I think had any real lasting effects, and when we get to it, I'll point it out and say, hey, this is that quest, here's what I did. But anyway, before you come up here to the anomaly, make sure you grab everything that the drones dropped in the settlement. Tethys, this dude, he's going to want one of those pieces to work on, and it's actually where you're going to acquire the drone companion. Now, I'm going to skip all this dialogue, but the next event will be to go and talk to a bunch of the other iterations on the anomaly, and then bring back the items that they're going to give you. Once you do that, Tethys will trade you those items for the Sentinel Flare, which is an item that allows you to summon your new robot companion. Now, summoning the drone starts the next segment of the quest, but that can't be done at the anomaly. Now, I just used the portal and hop back down to the settlement. To summon the drone, you'll activate it in your inventory, and then once summoned, you'll initiate a conversation with it to continue the quest line. Now, it'll give you some options. Doesn't matter which one you choose, they're all going to get kicked out in some weird way. You'll get coordinates for a Sentinel pillar, and then you'll have to head in that direction as soon as you break conversation. Now, once you get to the pillar, it's actually pretty straightforward. The terminal's not going to work. You have to take out these small structures around the base of the pillar, and then by attacking those, it's going to have a small force of drones come over and attack you. This is another one of those manufactured fights. You're only going to get a couple drones. They're not going to keep repeating. The escalation doesn't go up. So once these guys are dead, the fight's over. All right, now jack back into the terminal, and you'll get that first upgradable part for the Minotaur exocraft. Now, it's, as you can see, it's not even that expensive to install, and it comes with a built-in stun gun. What? To install that bad Johnny, you're gonna have to first talk to your floating companion, but as soon as that's done, get right in the inventory and hook it up. Yeah, I just want to f that arm. In all seriousness though, that thing looks pretty sweet. Now, after another quick conversation with the drone, it's going to tell you to go back to your settlement so that you can settle a dispute amongst your citizens. Realistically, what's happening here is you just got into a huge firefight with them. They saw that, you vanished, and now you're back with one of these little guys that's floating over your shoulder like a metal parrot. Yeah, they're like, WTF, mate. To be honest though, I don't think that any of these choices have any bearing on the quest or the game. Honestly, I think they're just kind of like player choice to make you feel like you've got control, but you really honestly don't. In any event, I wound up sending these guys off to the monolith after reassuring them. As soon as you leave the building, you'll talk to the drone, and then it'll send you on another fetch quest in another galaxy. Now, this next location is one of those where you have to shoot the doors open, and it pisses the Sentinels off when you do so. Yeah, I'm not sure if in my quest some drones that should not have been there accidentally wandered in, but this is the first location, the first drone fight that wound up escalating all the way to one of the big drone walkers. Now, my advice is that if you're not comfortable with combat, you could just blow the doors off the building and run away, or shove the fight back down their friggin' throats and stand atop the carcasses of 1,000 Sentinel corpses like me! realistically, either one of those methods will work just fine, just so long as you can get inside so you can get your new Sentinel arm. Now, you'll have to talk to the floating guy one more time, but as soon as you do, you're then free to go ahead, install the tech, and enjoy your shiny new Minotaur. Oh, God, yeah. What the fuck's going on with the fire? Hey, hello games. I found another bug. All right, so once you've got the tech installed, that's automatically going to progress the quest to the next event, which is going to be the people that you had sent off to go either to the abandoned building or the monolith. They're going to return, and this is the only place, I think, in the game where the outcome of your decisions will have a lasting effect. Now, I've tried to do some reading to figure out like what the quantitative outcome for these two different choices would be. I wound up going with the creeping spreading glass because it does add a bonus feature, and you can see it's in green. Anytime that any of these things are either green or red, that means that they're either good or bad. So I don't know how quarantined explorers is a good thing, but I also couldn't figure out how creeping spreading glass was a good thing either. So I wound up choosing to release the explorers. It took away salvage drones, which was a good thing, and it added the feature of creeping spreading glass. Now, it seemed like the productivity numbers that I was working with did go up, so I don't know what having quarantined explorers will wind up being as a result, but I can say that by releasing the explorers, the creeping spreading glass took my productivity from 484,000 to 551,000 per day as productivity. So take that for what it's worth, make your own decisions. All right, so once you've taken care of the dispute for your settlers and you've installed the next arm, you're going to talk to the drone again. I wound up letting mine name itself Laylapse. I don't know if you choose any other options, if it'll even prevent it from being able to name itself. But the last part of this quest here is that it's going to tell you that to finish building out the upgrades for the Minotaur, now you're going to have to go find a walker so that we can take its brain. Now, this fight's actually pretty easy. It is definitely a manufactured fight and leads me to believe that the one that took place earlier with the shooting of the doors was purely an accident, because none of the fights were even remotely as difficult as that one was or wound up being. Now, some people will call this an exploit if you walk up to it and then select the piece first before you shoot it to get the stuff out of it. But I've had it happen to me in the past where sometimes I'll do this method here where I'll like mine it or shoot it to get the resources out of it, but then I won't get all of the resources. So I kind of just use it as like a double check to make sure that I get everything out of it. And if I wind up with 2 walker brains, I wind up with 2 walker brains. So I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So once you've gotten the pristine walker brain, you're going to bring it back to the anomaly. You're going to bring it back to Tethys. This is kind of like the culmination of all the other things that have happened, right? So I left all of this dialogue in here so that you can see what outcome would happen if you chose any different options than what I chose. I chose to let it give itself a name, and so if you chose not to do that, I don't know if you'll wind up with the same dialogue here. So if you're seeing something different, let me know in the comment section down below, because it actually would be kind of cool to know that it has ramifications making those different choices. Okay, I cut it off there just because the rest of the text was pre-canned, had nothing to do with any of the choices that we made. Here, we just got our steel frame that we're going to put in. It's like the crown for our Minotaur. Before we can install that, we have to take it to one more place. Now, once you leave the station, you'll start pulsing, and it doesn't matter, just any direction. It takes about 8 seconds. Just make sure that you come out of pulse so that you don't pass the anomaly. Now, I think this was an interesting way to tie Atlas into this mostly Sentinel-focused quest. I'm really curious to get through the rest of the Sentinel lore at those pillars and the terminal stations to figure out if there's more than just needing Atlas to give life to this brain for the Minotaur. Because for me, it'd have to, just because I don't think that there's much difference in the Minotaur's behavior with this new brain and the autopilot upgrade that you can purchase at the anomaly. But honestly, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what comes out of all those different like lore bits. Anyway, if you look here, it even says like it talks about the Sentinel hard frame body there, but in the very bottom, it even says like the AI pilot will always be controlled. I mean, that's not very different than what the AI pilot would normally do anyway. So like, again, behaviorally, I don't know that it's going to act, or that it does act any differently than it would before or after the additional upgrades. But let's be serious. No one cares. This thing looks sweet. Now, one thing I want to point out is that every time that you've had to talk to the drone, it's always had like an odd personality, and there's been a number of times that it calls you Telemon and never really explains why, and as soon as you finish outfitting the Minotaur, it does it one more time, and then it actually even says like, oh, why would you know that your name is or isn't Telemon? Doesn't explain it, and then yet it's like, look, it doesn't matter. But just to prove that we're friends, let's go burn the world. So really, the end of this quest is it saying it needs you to go to one of the Sentinel pillars and erase it out of the hive mind so that it's like all connections are severed. Which, that's kind of interesting. And you know what that means. Space travel. You know, I gotta say, this is the final location for this Trace of Metal quest. And it was such a manufactured and easy fight. I really did expect a little bit more, and I definitely, for sure now, know that fight with the door that had to be shot down was a fluke, an accident, and the giant walker did not have to be there for that one. So take that how you will. This Sentinel pillar works like the very first one that we went to. You have to shoot those control nodes around the outsides before you can access the terminal. And obviously the reason that we're here is so that when we do access the terminal to complete the quest, we have to erase or disconnect our floating friend Laylaps from the Sentinel network. And those are the options that we choose right here. And then you have only one conversation left. You walk over to Laylaps. You can either agree that everything's going to be really nice and good, or disagree and say that everything is crap. I chose to say that it was all going to be good to go. He seemed to like that answer, so that completes the entire Trace of Metal quest. I hope you guys found this information useful, or at least, you know, somewhat entertaining. I'll take either. What I did right here, I just wanted to make sure that I showed you guys. Every time that you go to one of these systems and go through one of these stations, make sure that you are extracting the weapons information, because this was the first time out of any of them that I wound up getting an exotic. Now you'll see here once I look at it compared to the normal weapon that I have that it has nothing. It's a C class. I've got an A with 24 slots, and this thing is still 5.1 million. So I'm gonna be upgrading the hell out of that in a future video possibly. I'm not sure quite yet, but in any event, I hope you guys found this information useful, like I said, or at least a little bit entertaining. If so, go ahead, leave me a like, subscribe. It really helps out as I try to build this channel up. Like I said, in the future, I would like to start offering giveaways and stuff, but I don't really want to do that until I've actually got somewhat of a little following going. All right, guys, this has been fun as hell. I hope to see you in the next one. I've been SkyDM, over and out.